We all process information differently. Some people are very visual. You'll know somebody who's visual because when you're talking to them, they generally like a bit more space because they like to see the whole picture. And they generally talk a lot faster. A visual person is processing information so quickly that they have to speak quickly because they've got all these pictures going on in their head and they can barely keep up with the picture that they're going.
I think I'm visual.
Some people prefer audio. Now, an audio person will talk at a very sort of mediocre rate. Now, quite often, they're not interested in the visual. When you're in a mid-conversation, they'll quite often tilt their ear to you.
Just listen to me as well. That's me.
I don't care. I don't process. If I'm an audio, I don't process visually, and I don't feel it. What I do is hear it. So if anybody starts tilting their ear to you when you're in an intense conversation,
They're not bothered what you look like.
well, I wouldn't say that. It depends what agenda they're on. But the fact is, if they want to communicate with you, they'll slant their ear in towards you. Quite frequently, even if they don't, they'll usually tilt their head. But they talk at a very even keel rate. An audio person normally talks somewhere between the visual and the kinesthetic, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, a kinesthetic person means that they feel the information. Now, if any of you have ever been in a conversation with somebody who likes to get really up close and personal and touch you a lot when they're talking, and they get really close, they're a kinesthetic. They feel the communication. Somebody who's working from a kinesthetic angle will talk really slowly, very deliberately, and they'll really want to feel what's going on when they're talking to you.
We're a bit worried. What if you're all three?
Well, here's the thing. That's a good question. It's a really good question. Most people switch from one to the other. Now, we can all process information in three ways, and we'll usually have a preference. But just because you prefer one of the modalities, that's what they're called, different modalities, kinesthetic, audio, and visual. There's also audio digital, which is somebody who's got a little sub-dialogue going on in their head, and they're processing information like a computer. But that's another one. Most people are either audio, visual, or kinesthetic, and we can switch. But what you'll find is when somebody very visual starts talking with somebody very kinesthetic, quite often there's a breakdown in communication. They'll be the people, you'll notice them at parties, because they'll start off talking like this, and the kinesthetic person will be looking to get closer, and the visual person will be...
Excellent.
So what you've got is this game of cat and mouse, that if you speed up, it's a bit like Benny Hill. So through the course of the evening, this conversation's going on, and it's just the way, it's just preference of communicating, and that's why sometimes in relationships people it can break down because people don't understand. People have different preferences of communicating, and that's just the way it is. So there's a little bit of NLP thrown into the equation as well.